What if the solution to your biggest growth problem wasn't another person on your payroll? What if the key to breaking through your company's capacity ceiling isn't a person at all? We've all felt it in property management, that feeling of being caught in a meat grinder, the endless tasks, the burnout, the roles that feel almost impossible for any one human to do well. We hire to solve it, but often that just creates more complexity and more headcount anxiety. Well, my guest today is here to offer a completely different playbook. I'm talking with the one and only Stacey Salyer, a strategic powerhouse I call the queen of the chessboard. And she argues that we need to stop thinking about our next hire and start thinking about our next teammate. And that teammate is AI. In our conversation, Stacey lays out the framework for a new kind of org chart centered around the AI manager role. We get into why the entire debate around fees is a huge distraction from what really matters. And we talk about the critical mindset shift required to build a truly sellable asset instead of what she calls a fourth child. This is one of those conversations that will fundamentally change how you look at your business. So, let's get right into it. Welcome to the Property Management Framebreakers podcast. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez, and I am here to introduce you to the folks in the property management space that have broken the frame of what you may believe was possible. This podcast is presented by Vendoroo. It is your all-in-one AI solution for resolving your maintenance needs. Let's go. Let's talk about it. Let's just get into it, right? Like, what are you thinking these days? Like, what's top of mind for you as far as property management goes, technology goes, tip of the spear stuff? You're the queen of the chessboard in innovation. So what's going on in your head?
Okay, so when we met, when we last spoke officially online, when was that? Like March in Colorado Springs. So
Colorado Springs.
you posed a question to me, like if I was creating a property management business, what would the org chart look like? And I had no idea that you were going to ask me that question. So I had not planned in my head. I was like, oh, I just kind of threw out some random stuff. But that's something I've really been playing with a lot because I really believe that AI, I mean, if you're not treating AI as an actual team member, then you're kind of missing the boat. So I think a lot of times people are looking at AI like as like an adjacent, like, oh, I could just use, Chat GPT to like run my emails through so I don't sound like super rude when I'm like responding to a tenant or a client, right? But I think actually we need to be looking at the org chart and maybe even put together like an AI manager, like have a specific teammate. Because I think what's happening for most business owners is they're just overwhelmed because they keep getting this word AI. It's like thrown at them. They're kind of freaking out. They're like, I don't even know. I can barely even like keep my head above water. So I was thinking in the last couple of weeks, how cool would it be to actually hire a specific person that's their skill, that they're that techie, go-getter person, maybe that high A autonomy person has that vision that could be in charge of the AI and create and like, maybe even use services like Vendoroo, like really take all their processes and actually like build out new team members that are AI team members and stay up to date with all the changing because it changes so incredibly fast. I mean, whatever we talk about today, by the time this comes out, there will be something new. Not even probably, there will be something new. So that's kind of my top of mind thought.
That's a good frame for this conversation. I think there's a couple things we can hit into there. The needing a person to be the AI person already happening in our clientele base, right? Like there's this guy, Bill Davey, who's like got hired to be the maintenance guy. And as he's like getting more and more into what he's doing with Vendoroo, he's now calling himself the AI czar. And like, yeah, really cool, right? And how all that affects, I think there's a whole like national mission around new collar jobs. And that's basically these people that use AI to do formerly blue collar things. I think we can jam on. But first I would love to just get into like what is the difference between treating AI as a teammate and AI as a tool? And why is that even a thing? Like why do we have to make that mind shift from like what you're seeing?
Well, I mean, we have to make that mind shift because I mean we just have to, but I guess there's that because
Yeah.
I said so, the queen of the chessboard said so.
Chessboard.
No, because I think we're looking at it too linear. Because
Yeah.
if you're just like using it as a tool, like email's a tool, right? I mean, that's a tool. AI is rapidly changing. I mean, so fast that,
Yeah.
I mean, even what we're doing now, like 6 months from now, this conversation will probably be obsolete. So if you're not really thinking of it as like, how do I bring it in? And it's
Yeah.
my new team member. And
Yeah.
how do I take what's working out there? And how do I then even think ahead of,
Yeah.
okay, so it's here, but it's going to be here in 6 months. Like, I don't know. I just really think like embracing it as a team member and not looking at it as like a tool. Because if you're keeping the same staff and you're keeping the same processes, and then
Yeah.
you're just, oh, I'm going to sprinkle it in, that doesn't really work that way, in
Hmm.
my opinion. I think it's more like, okay, so you have a maintenance coordinator. Now I'm going to work with Vendoroo, for example, and you guys are, very AI. I mean, that's your AI agent, right? You're
Yeah.
training on the processes of that company. Now you have this maintenance coordinator, but hopefully, you can elevate them into like bigger work, or maybe you can even shift around. Maybe you could say, okay, well, yes, you were a maintenance coordinator, but now you're going to oversee the AI agent for my leasing department, my maintenance department, and my admin department,
Yeah.
because you're highly skilled and you can do that. So because now you have these AI team members that are actually running those departments. What's
Yeah.
happening?
So you're thinking about it from the standpoint of thinking of it as a teammate now creates like a different mental scaffolding of how you build your actual team because of new abilities, right? Like I get that. The thing I have started realizing is that the big change, right? Like as we've just very transparently like dug in on positioning and how we want to talk to the market, that work is a lot of like customer research, right? And it's a lot of just like getting to understand how people feel and things. And I think when you and I first spoke, the biggest difference in me is the realization that most of the job roles in property management are almost impossible for a human to do and do well because of the task intensiveness, right? Like I look at any kind of request from a resident asking for a maintenance thing. And in order to properly troubleshoot it, it's like 14 messages back and forth at a time that's convenient to both people. And that's just to like figure out what's going on,
Yep.
right? So like if you start just adding all that stuff up, it doesn't compute into and then like as we're doing these these exercises and we're working with a company, we're like, dude, just Google image search property management memes. And it's all these like memes where it's like Charlize Theron on day one as property manager and like Florida woman crackhead arrest looking thing on like day 14, right? Like it's just like this meat grinder effect, right? And I think the big difference is now this ability to like do all these infinity little menial tasks that break you free from the human limitation of capacity that is very different than the idea of like a better checklist, which is what like SaaS is, or like doing stuff more efficiently kind of thing, right?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Because I mean, coming from the field, I mean, for example, maintenance,
Yeah.
that maintenance coordinator, I mean, it took months to train a maintenance coordinator effectively. And again, and I built my business using, VAs, remote core
Yeah.
teammates.
And you love maintenance. You said yesterday you love
I
maintenance because it's a problem to solve.
I do. I love problems to solve. I
Yeah.
love solving people's problems. Do you have a problem? It can even just be personal, whatever. Just ping me. I've actually already gotten 3 different text messages today from like 3 random people on 3 random subjects on challenges. And
I
I was
love
like,
that. I love
I
that.
know. So yes, that's why I love maintenance. I know it's kind of weird. But yeah, so then you're dealing with like training someone who might live in Mexico, who doesn't even like live in the US, and so you're just trying to do this. I mean, so to train somebody, it takes hours and hours for them to even understand. And that was always the challenge of property management, is because, you hire someone, they want to do a good job, they want the information. And I would tell them, there's no way I can actually train you on all the problems. Like you're going to
Mhm.
have to learn as they come.
Yeah.
But with AI, the AI teammate, you can just download all the things to them, right? Because that's easy. You're just like uploading, you take Stacey's brain, download it into whatever, and then
Mhm.
upload it into your AI teammate, and there you go. And then that AI teammate never takes a day off. They
Yeah.
never get sick.
Yeah.
They don't, yeah. So that in itself, I did also recently write either an article or a post on LinkedIn about fees. So this is just kind of like a slight
Yeah.
different take on it is
Mhm.
that, on the West Coast, obviously we're very regulated. And so I've, always lived on the West Coast, managed on the West Coast. So we're used to it. I always used to manage to the future just in that aspect, right? So what we had going on in 2019, I would take a look at what's on the docket for bills and, do I think that's going to I'm going to have to modify my business for fees or whatever. I anticipate that that will probably happen, nationally. Even on the national level, they've called out junk fees
Yeah.
and, revenue producing companies, charge a fair amount of different fees. And that's how we've usually paid for our staff or our VAs. But that is something else that I think the fee conversation is a huge distraction. And again, if I was running a PMC today, I wouldn't, obviously I would still look at my revenue and what different fees I could charge, and I would still manage to that future part of it. But instead of like being scared, I would then look at, okay, well, how can I take AI teammates and incorporate them into my business so I don't actually have to worry about that so
Yeah.
much because it's going to be less expensive in the long run.
So it sounds like what you're saying is, first of all, you having the capacity to like manage ahead of like knowing what's coming down and understanding like to me this is like an underreported thing, right? Like we
Mhm.
talk a lot about fee maximization and things of that sort, but one regulation, if you're counting on these ancillary fees, one
Mhm.
bill and that becomes like a significant part of your model, right?
Yeah.
Like one bill can completely change your model. And I'm not sure most property managers, or maybe you correct me, right? Like have the bandwidth to be thinking ahead of time to change a model like like what you're talking about. And then having the foresight to if even whether it's fees or even like just the idea that the mayor of New York got elected on rent control, right? Like that to me feels at property managers revenue goes up as rents go up, right? Like, so to me, that's like a model challenging thing too. Would I help me understand the connection between that and AI? Are you talking about, is it you get to control your labor costs better, or is it with AI, you're able to just like make sure you collect fees better? Or, how are you thinking about that?
No, I was thinking labor costs more.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, certainly you could use it to help you collect fees better, but more of the labor costs, just because it essentially like once you kind of get things set up and utilize resources, whatever's out there. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure whatever comes down the pipe will be even beyond what I thought could come
Yeah.
down the pipeline. But I think labor. So instead of looking at like, oh, I'm scared that, I'm going to be regulated and I'm no longer going to be able to charge, my 5 different fees that I've been able to make revenue on and help pay for my 3 VAs, I would think ahead of, okay, so that might happen, but I have plan B and C. And then honestly, plan A should be AI anyway. But let's say you're not on the AI boat yet.
Yeah.
A way to think about getting on the AI boat would be, hey, let me do it, go after it this way. Because, you should always be looking at, okay, well, if my stream of income was disrupted for whatever reason, and it could be a variety of reasons, maybe it's not regulation, maybe it's something else. How could I manipulate that, my labor costs? And I think that's a big one.
Can you tell me about something that we've been like poking into is this idea of like the inflection points of a property management company and how I don't know if it's like I feel like there's like a 600 door kind of like threshold where like 600 to 1,000 at some point you almost have to like double the size of your team ahead of having like doubled your revenue in like the capacity. I feel like there's lower thresholds also of just kind of like when you got to hire and hit those inflection points. Did you go through that building yours or when you were acquiring properties for Pure?
Yes. So yes, I did. So I actually, when in 2020, when I bought a company, I went from close to 200 doors to 500
Yeah.
overnight. That
Yeah.
was definitely a breaking point. So I did do that. I had anticipated, but still, I mean, hindsight's 2020. Probably I didn't do it perfect, but I had I had hired a couple of VAs. So I hired ahead of making the money essentially. And then I had started to segue into departmental because when I opened my company, I was portfolio, which
Mhm.
I don't really recommend. I mean, unless you're super niche and you really don't want to go over 50 doors and you don't really want a team. So I did do that. Yeah. And there is definitely that breaking point. I don't have the magic answer to it. I mean, I think it's kind of
Just
dependent,
just
but yeah,
from the experience of it, right? Like to me, it's like I don't think anybody has the magic sauce there. I would assume that that experience, like I look at it in my own business of I'm trying to, in my own business, I'm in a similar cliff, right? Like I know that I'm still running my old company while I'm full-time employed at Vendoroo and I need to bring in an operator. And that means that like the profit that like my company is spitting off is now going to get sliced in half while I'm like betting on somebody else to build my company up so I can then, have that insurance, like that insurance policy of like something happens at Vendoroo or whatever, right? Like so I feel like I empathize with that like mindset. And what it feels like to me is I want to be, like I've like celebrated all the way until I got to a certain point. And then now at this certain point, I'm like, if I keep going beyond this point, it's no more celebration. Like I have to like take this like big step back in income. Like it might be a celebration and like achievement. Cool. I get to say I'm an entrepreneur that now gets people to like operate my stuff, but like it's so costly and it's so risky if I get it wrong. And I feel like that part of it, whether, like as you were growing to like future proof not having to feel that because the AI scales with you in capacity is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately.
right. Yeah. And I think that, yeah. So, I mean, if I were you, I would maybe, yeah, take a pause and just see where you could maybe, well, depending on your bandwidth currently, but, see if you could spend the next 3 to 6 months, see if you could build out some things that would help alleviate some of it. Maybe you don't need to do that. I think the other thing that a lot of people kind of lose sight of is that they feel like they always have to grow and get bigger and
Mhm.
bigger and bigger. But I think it's also okay to say like that's enough. Like I'm
Yeah.
happy where I am. And I see that a lot. Like, but that's kind of the hustle culture and that kind of like guru, like,
Yeah.
oh, gotta get bigger and get bigger. But there's ways to grow your business without necessarily like adding doors and getting
Mhm.
bigger. And there's ways to make more money in that. And again, I mean, I think a lot of it goes back to AI and kind of what you can use for like utilize those resources to cut your labor without adding doors. You make more money. I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, I haven't really got a chance to like play around with it too much yet with
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I don't expect you to have like a financial model like in your head, right? Like this is all just kind of like future pacing because you are able to see around corners of you as you have proven, right? Like,
Yeah, but even in my own business, I mean, so this new business, I do have a VA, she's full time, so there's two of us, but I have actually started to think, okay, what kind of AI agents can I start building? Because there's a couple different companies where I could maybe build out some AI agents that could actually do some of those manual tasks that I would normally hire a second VA for. And
yeah.
I'm going to work on that personally before I pull the trigger to hire another human.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's right in line with what I think is the prevailing thoughts around this stuff, right? Like I don't know if you probably haven't seen it, but I put together this presentation around like 3 months ago. The CEO of Shopify, the CEO of Duolingo, and the CEO of Fiverr all had like these memos leaked about their like strategy with AI, and they all had very different kind of like viewpoints, right? Like Shopify was like AI is our new policy. Duolingo's like AI is our new strategy, and Fiverr's like AI is the new enemy, right? Like for them, that's a real
Right.
existential threat. But and then they all had like their kind of like marching orders. Like everybody had like 5 to 7 bullet points. Every single one of them had in there before expanding headcount, before investing in new contractors, anything, you have to prove that AI can't do the job, which
Yeah.
sounds like it's like what you're doing right now ahead of time.
Yep. Yep. So that's something I've been working on in the back end as far as
So
like taking.
what does that look like for you? What kind of things are you thinking that AI can do for you that normally would have been a human?
Oh gosh. Honestly, okay. So the podcast I just listened to, and I wrote the lady's name down, Natalie McNeil.
Yeah.
I'll,
Is that
I'll
the one
send
that you
it.
sent me?
Yeah.
That
So
was
she
fun.
was
Yeah.
on, she was a guest, and I started following her on LinkedIn. So you can actually, from what I learned on that is, and I have not done it yet, so don't quote
Mhm.
me on this, but I could actually build AI agents that can be doing all my stuff for me. So I really think, researching, because I still write like all my own copy. Yes, I write all my own emails, like all that kind of stuff. So doing like back end research, writing my copy, actually doing that, pretty much any really like manual task. So
Yeah.
we're still kind of doing a lot of conversation back and forth between my VA and I. But yeah, I don't really have the answers yet because I haven't really dove in, but
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
your business is, you have like a solopreneur kind of like coaching business, right? So like a lot of your tasks are marketing. Then
Very-
and then like your product is kind of like your intellectual capital, right? Like you are intellectual capitalist, right? So that makes sense on that end. When I translate that over to like the property management side, right? Like I think there's a lot to gain from that idea of the AI marketing flywheel for sure, right? Like I think a property manager setting up and I think we should probably link to that podcast because you sent it to me. It opened up my eyes, right? Of just kind of like, I really enjoyed her talking about the different LLMs and how each different one can set up is like she uses for different reasons and has different kind of like agentic capabilities inside each of them and how she connects that with workflows.
Yes.
And for that, for content creation and distribution and all that stuff seems really, really doable. As far as the on the property management side, like I see it very, that stuff is easy to conceptualize because I think it's much more like the automation that property managers are used to than before, right? Like I think property managers are used to creating an automation that's outbound, right? So like you can set up in Lead Simple or an Apply or whatever, like a workflow of like communicating outbound with people. It just breaks when it comes inbound because now it's trying to like go into these like form filled based things. And if it's not written on top of an LLM, then it's impossible to do. I think the big thing is this idea that now if you set up the right kind of like policies and procedures and SOPs like you and me have been kind of working on, the inbound stuff can really work and it can be a two-way communication with people that don't necessarily need your unique brain. They just need your like knowledge of how to get certain things done that are replicable.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And
So
that's kind of,
so I know how that looks like in maintenance, right? Like what are the other things in property management that you think that that's like super applicable for? I assume leasing is one of them, right?
oh yeah, leasing 100%. Yeah. And I know there's some other companies out there too that have some of that, the leasing agents that are newer, run by
Yeah.
brilliant people. Cause yeah, and anything that's like the normal, like just back and forth, like nobody really has to have a special brain. I mean, like if you want, again, like, yeah, using your people. So like going back to like my VA who ran my leasing department, she about pretty much, I mean, we had a ton of automation set up, so that's fine. But like, let's say we didn't, it would have just been answering the same questions over and over. Yeah. So anything like that. Yeah. Scheduling. I think anything, I mean, really anything, like any general communication, but probably
Yeah.
even more beyond that. I mean, it could really elevate your business. Like it could take the average property management company and just really elevate it to where the business owners haven't even had time to do it because the basics, like the leasing and the maintenance and like all that, sure, yes, of course. But like most property management companies, for example, don't do a lot of marketing. And
True.
they don't come from that background. They don't think about it. I mean, even when I owned my own, I was like, oh, I get my 5-star reviews. I'm on Google. I'm good. That's good enough. But now what I do now, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a whole new marketing world. Like how cool. I mean, you could essentially have a whole marketing department run by AI that's just
Hmm.
doing everything for you. Even the back and forth communication until it has certain triggers to where then it's like goes to that capable human that's like, oh, goes to your biz dev person or whatever, your community relations person.
Mhm.
That I think if business owners really just looked at, okay, yes, I have this, but like really think beyond, like
Mhm.
almost make a wish list of like everything and anything they'd ever want. And I guarantee you could easily plug like different AI agents into all of those.
Yeah.
And it probably wouldn't even really increase your cost that much. If anything, you could probably decrease it over time because you could decrease the human and you could put humans in charge of like more, but it would technically not be more because you'd have AI doing all the other stuff, right?
If you understand that change is coming and AI is this giant industrial revolution, you're going to want to work with a company that is AI by DNA. And that, my friend, is Vendoroo. We are a native agentic AI solution built from the ground up with this assumption that the AI future is here. And what Vendoroo does, it is able to handle 80 to 85% of all maintenance work orders from beginning to end, while elevating that extra 15 to 20% so that you can actually take care of it. And most importantly, just getting you out of the grind and the forever firefight of maintenance so you can do other things. Like one of our clients hired Vendoroo.ai, and within 6 months, the amount of time that saved her from maintenance, she dedicated herself to business development. She started adding 10 doors a month over the last 6 months. It's been 60 new doors. It's been a huge change, huge growth for her business, way more profitable. So if you want to do that, you want to get yourself out of the mundane, get your team out of the mundane, let them focus on stuff that really, really matters. Go to Vendoroo.ai, book a demo with us, and we would love to help you build an agentic AI property management business. Vendoroo.ai, book a demo. Enjoy the rest of the show. Yeah, I like where you're going with this, right? Because it's this idea of like, this is what makes it different. This is what makes thinking of it as a teammate as different, right? Because if you, as a business owner, when I think of bringing on a great teammate, it means that I can give them this job and I can then go focus on something else as opposed to continuing to do that same job. And if we can think beyond, okay, core functions of property management, maintenance, leasing, right? And those kinds of things. And like property marketing, right? Like that I guess that falls under leasing as well, right? But like, how would you really love to market? How would you really love to sell what you do? It makes me think that we can go from a world, like I remember when you first answered this question, you're like, well, I guess the future org chart is you've got like your like biz dev person, you've got like a community person, and then you've got your like in-house property expert person that just kind of like, and those three people can go out, create community and do all this type of stuff. It makes me think of a world where we go from like fee maxing to like value creation maxing, right? Like how do you inject yourself in other realms of like value creation, whether it's the asset manager mindset or the community builder or like the super deep niche kind of thing. Is that kind of how you're thinking about it?
Yeah, yeah, like bringing it all together. Because there's a lot of people out there that kind of have all the different parts. You hear like, oh, you're an asset manager, not just a property manager, or you're, biz dev, community. But it's like you could easily just bring it all together. I mean, I say
Sure.
easily. It's gonna take some work. Gonna take some work and some research and some, doing the things. But yeah, just bring it all together and really elevate yourself in the industry and elevate the industry. Because I think property management itself needs a huge overhaul because the majority of people see a property manager as that old school, like, oh yes, I collect your rent. Oh, you have a problem with the garbage disposal? Let me stop by at 3 p.m. See if I can fix that for you. I mean, literally in my community, that's how it was. Might still be a little bit here and there. You could use AI to just elevate yourself, which again will just elevate you in the industry. And I think use it and elevate the industry in general. And then maybe not be seen as the bad people,
Yeah.
the I just want your money people.
Yeah. The bill collector, right? Like nobody loves the bill collector.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah.
Or the whole like, oh, all you do is like charge all these fees. And then, the residents are like, you're like the mean bad person who's wants my rent. So yeah, I don't
So that
know.
I like it. I like it. That's big picture, right? Like if I was to bring it down to small picture, and we're talking about my buddy Bill, who's the AI czar. When I went and visited him, right? Like he's in Charleston, so it's like a little bit of a drive. Oh, right by one of your stomping grounds, right? Uh,
Yes, I'm actually flying to Charleston next
oh,
week. Yeah.
okay. All right. Well, let me know if you want to meet him. He's awesome. What he told me was, he literally sent me a text this week and he's like, dude, Vendoroo, like last week was 97% automated maintenance, right? So it's like, wow. And he got brought in. So his boss found like basically hired him out of Lowe's, right? Like, so he's just a handy dude, hasn't been part of property management, brought him in to be like, hey, figure out how to like run this thing the way that Lowe's taught you how to run a retail department. And then he went out and, figured out the best tools, whatever, chose us, and has really taken on this mantra of like AI as a teammate, right? Meaning he spent the first 2 weeks looking at everything the AI was doing and like giving it advice and blah, blah, blah. And then now he just like spot checks it. When I was there, I saw him, what he was working on was essentially there was one bill that was like $2,500. So owner wanted him to look into it. So he was like calling around, making sure he's like, oh, like he essentially realized the reason why this is so expensive is because insulation has gone up 40% and air, like blah, 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 right? Like being able to like really justify like a big bill. I saw him, he had like a flyer on. There was this kind of partnership with another, it's like a national franchise that does some of like these services, and it could be like a revenue opportunity for the company because if they pair with these guys now it's right. So it's like he's still, yes, he's the AI czar, still on charge of maintenance, but like the stuff that he's working on feels like a much more meaningful thing that he gets to like affect. And it reminds me of that, like it's value maximization, right? It's just like really, really being the steward of your owner's finances and being a steward of like revenue for the company that is a win-win scenarios.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, because and I don't know about the affiliate stuff, but I mean, there's so much opportunity out there that I think, I mean, in property management, like I said, I mean, we came from like the old school,
Yeah,
and there was a fair amount of us that moved into like the newer school, but there's so many other untapped, like even revenue sources out there. I mean, and again, it kind of opened my eyes launching this new business. I mean, affiliates, just doing different things, working with different people. But yeah, and then using Bill, I mean, his brain, I mean, he probably has an amazing brain and he should be doing that higher level stuff. And
yeah,
and he could probably even build out an AI agent eventually that does all that research
true.
and so then he can, read through it and then have that intelligent conversation with the client who then feels like, oh wow, he did a lot of research and then he builds trust and then
Mhm.
they get more clients and they're all happy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like trust is kind of the name of the game, right? Like trust is like the thing that's not going to get commoditized, and trust is the thing that you can't shortcut.
No.
Like trust will always take time,
Yeah.
and if we're stuck in this like loop of never-ending tasks that we got to get to, how do we find time for like the trust building activities?
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, the
What do you
AI.
think of what do you think of today somebody building a property management company, right? Like you built one, you bought one, you scaled it, you sold it to like a bigger, you had an exit, right? Do you think that's still the viable model? Or do you think there is like a better long-term perspectives in either growing your own portfolio of properties or building some other kind of company long-term? Like what are you thinking is kind of like if somebody was getting into it and they had like a 10-year window of I want to build a business that really changes my life, like what do you think that path looks like right now?
Well, I mean, number one, I'll be honest, I've always told people that if you really, want to make money, you got to own the properties. I
Yeah.
mean, at the end of the day. I mean, now and if that's not an avenue that you want to take or that you can't take, then or you feel like you can't take, because I do believe whatever you want to do, you can do. But if that's something you're not at the moment, then I still think owning a property management company is a great form of income, if built correctly
Yeah.
and keeping an open mind. I would also partner it with a real estate sales brokerage, though. I do believe that again, if the avenue is you want to make money or build a good asset, then I would partner the two together and I would build it in the beginning to think of it as an asset. So that's one thing that I've been educating people on is that a lot of times when people are building a business, so whatever business it is, they're not building it thinking that's their biggest asset. A lot of times people think the home that they live in is their biggest asset, which depending on your area, that may or may not be true. But the majority of people, their biggest asset is actually their business. And
Mhm.
they just don't think of it that way. They don't think of it as, oh, right. Okay. So yeah, my house is worth 500,000, but gosh, my company's worth, 1 million or 2 million. Or how do I get it from, equal, like maybe it's worth 500,000. How do I get it up to worth 2 million? And they don't think of it that way. They just a lot of times think of it as, oh, I'm really good at XYZ, so I'm gonna do this business and I'm just gonna basically create a job for myself. Oh, okay, I created a couple other jobs for people. That's cool. But I mean, if you really step back and think about it, like you're creating like the biggest asset that you own. How cool is that? So I
So
don't know
cool.
if that really answered your question.
No, no, I think you answered my question. I think your answer is no, you can still build a property management company as your biggest asset and not just your real estate portfolio as your biggest asset. And when you just said that, you kind of spoke to me, right? Like I feel like I built up my business as like, oh, it's my cash generator, and I've been taking that cash that I can create, putting it into properties. And then it's one of the big reasons why I jumped onto the Vendoroo train, because it's like I feel like I also built that business up to like develop a certain skill set that now apply to a business that's being built as like a real life changing asset. I can be a part of that, right? So I wonder, as you're coaching folks as they're starting their property management company, this idea of like building it up as an asset, what is that like, right? Like what are people struggling with when they're getting started, of like that mentality? What's the right way to do it? Kind of like coach us through that.
Well, I think the biggest challenge for people, so most of my clients actually, most of my ideal clients are actually kind of middle. So they've already built it. They are making money. They usually have a team of some form or fashion, and they've just kind of hit a point where they're overwhelmed and they didn't build it thinking I'm building a business and I'm building an asset. So it's almost just taking a step back of, okay, hey, first of all, you've done a great job. Like, you should feel good about yourself. Like you're doing awesome. But let's work on, so I kind of have a 3-part framework that we work on. So it's, like in my group cohort that I'm launching, it's going to be, defining the roles that your business really needs. And so that's why I'm kind of on that whole like, okay, let's take a look at AI, like how can we put that in as roles? And then 2, identify what's helping and hurting, or like identify who's helping and hurting. A lot of times the owner is actually kind of hurting their business. And we've all been there. I was there even with myself. And then 3, just kind of restructuring with intention. So that's really kind of what we focus on. I mean, just kind of break it down pretty simple. If it's really not that complicated, it's just a lot of times people just need somebody that's not in the middle of it to kind of
Yeah.
now take a look at it and then restructure it how they want. And again, it kind of depends. I mean, so you can go super huge. You could even keep it at the same door count. Maybe you just need a little bit of reconstruction.
When I feel like that's something that we under have talked about, you and I, that's really interesting to me. Your role as like an acquisitions person for property management companies up here. What's the difference between like when it comes to valuation, right? Because when I hear you say your company can be your greatest asset beyond your home, part of it is, yeah, it's like the agency that you have within your business, right? Like there's nothing I can do to my home that can make it double in value in 1 year. Whereas like I feel like there is something you can do in your business that can that can double in value depending on your circumstances and size of business and whatnot, right? Generally speaking, when it comes to increasing your business's valuation, is like controlling costs versus growing doors. Like what are the levers that folks that aren't as familiar, if they want to start adding valuation to their business, kind of like what is the like order of like magnitude of like levers to like look at for that?
Well, my answer, probably you won't love it, is there is actually no one great answer.
Of
And that's
course.
why it's important to know your numbers. So, and that's why it's important. So if you don't know your numbers, that's okay. I mean, a lot of people don't, or if they just don't have a lot of experience in knowing them or knowing what to even look at, find
Mhm.
somebody to help you. So that would be my first kind of like answer, just to kind of back up a little bit. So when I opened my business, I didn't necessarily open it with the mindset that I have now. It took me a little bit of time to get there. So I used to call it my 4th child because I have 3 children, and I used to
Yeah.
call it my child. And I realized, hopefully, I think sooner than later, that that was not actually a great thing, because every time, so I was too emotionally invested because, with my kids, I'm very emotionally invested. I love my children, I would do anything for them, right? But my business, I was too emotionally involved. And so it was kind of like that. So it's, I was too much in the middle. And, every time, like if we got a bad Google review, it just like break me. And, I was sad or whatever. And then I just kind of had an aha moment of like, wait a minute, no, that's not being a really good business owner and leader. So I kind of work with people on that as well. But so I would say numbers, and then just knowing that, it's not your child, it's not your baby. That's okay. It's actually something that you could actually sell, right?
Can't
Yeah.
sell your baby. Yeah.
Can't sell your baby. That's illegal, but you can sell your business.
But you can't sell your
So
business. Yeah, that
anyway,
makes sense.
yeah, I guess like short answer, people need to look at like, their revenue. I mean, sure, like your expenses are important, your revenue, like being maybe kind of creative about different things. I guess the challenge is, I mean, what I saw that didn't work well, I guess if you want to know that,
Yeah.
is people tended to be overstaffed,
Mhm.
spent a lot of money on payroll, or they weren't creative about their payroll. They would only hire local. They wouldn't, be open to hiring like VAs, but they also didn't have their company set up to hire a VA because everything, was like in-house, right? So if you have stuff on whiteboards, your
Yeah.
VA do that. So, it's kind of like a little bit complicated to that answer
Yeah.
exactly. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, no, that helps. I mean, I'm trying to like dig at like where AI changes things, and
Right.
I guess this makes a lot of sense for why you see the attractiveness in AI lowering labor burden and labor risk, right?
Yeah.
Like to me, that's kind of like what I understand about businesses is like there's this like He-Man stuff, right? Like if your business relies on the fact that you're like expert maintenance coordinator knows everything and has it in their head and they can be, like they can quit or they can have an accident or whatever. That is one layer of risk that people that buy businesses don't like. And then there's also the idea of if you're overstaffed and you have too like the more people you have, the more risk you have in your business and the more cost you have, right? So like the idea of lowering labor costs with AI and remote teammates and also lowering that risk would be like an attractive valuation magnifier thing.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, most definitely. And then, documented processes, things that actually work
Yes.
and ultimately work without the owner running it. I mean, to be a most attractive business as far as like if I was going to buy one,
Mhm.
I'm definitely not going to pay as much and you won't make as much if you're the owner operator and you're in the middle of your business and things will fall apart if you walk away, you're not going to be able to sell your business for very much money at all. Guaranteed
Yeah.
you. But
Yep.
if you have things running and where you could walk away, for a week, month, couple months, whatever, and things don't fall apart, then
Mhm.
you'll get top dollar for sure. And then if you can then even have it built in where your labor is way less because you've built out your AI agents and you have your BA team and you still need boots on the ground and you still need your expert licensed property manager. Bless you.
Thank you.
You still need all that, but then you're going to also be able to afford to get that best person in your market. So that's
Mm.
another thing too to think about is yes, you can lessen your labor costs by just the mundane tasks, but you want the best person running your business that's in your market. Like you don't want the crappy one down the road. You want the best of the best.
Have
And
we
you,
have we had that conversation? Have we had the conversation of how like because of the dynamics of labor and cost, when you're starting a business, you kind of like hire whoever you can afford, and then this is what I've like thought about that I did one of those like walks on the beach about, right? Like you hire what you can afford at the time, which makes sense, but then that also anchors you to what you can expect from people working for you. And then like you're much more hesitant to then go spend bigger money on great labor. And I feel like there's a chance here that AI allows us to grow to the point where you can actually like afford the top-notch talent as an entrepreneur and like start there so that you don't have that burden. Have we talked about that?
no, we haven't,
Uh,
but
What are your
yeah.
thoughts on
Oh yeah, no, I that's exactly where I mean my mind is. And even in my business that I'm building now, because my VA that I have is not just like, run of the mill human. She's amazing. And and I know her skill level and I know unfortunately she's doing some menial tasks that I don't want her to do. So that is exactly where I'm headed is, building out the AI part of it so that I can, elevate her and then the next human that I hire would be equal to her, right? Like that high
Yeah.
level, and I'm willing to pay for it because
Yeah.
I can afford it because I do that. But yeah, no, yeah, I agree with you. I
I
like
like
that.
that. And you have that approach with VAs. Like you want to tell me a little bit about kind of like you have a point of view on how to this idea that VA comes with like a negative connotation of like less talented or whatever, but you've been able to really get the most out of VAs.
Oh yeah. Well, because I didn't look at it as like just some VA. It was, a human, a core, remote teammate that
Yeah.
and my team was my team. I sourced, so what I would tell people is that I was able to source globally for the best
Mhm.
talent. And that's how I looked at it. Because, in your market, maybe, I don't know, it depends on your market, but I live in a small market. I was able to find the best of the best. And I wasn't just looking for a body to like push buttons.
Yeah.
Not how you
And
build a business.
And something you've already alluded to is that you're not, yes, you're finding great people, but you also have a different mindset around it, right? Like you're not finding the best people to get them to go push buttons for you. You're finding the best people and trying to put them in positions where they feel like they're doing meaningful work. You want to tell me a little bit about kind of like your approach to once you have these like great VAs, how to support them properly?
Oh, sure. You mean like what I did as far
Yeah.
as like creating the team? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, one, we did daily huddles, which was really important. So everybody knew exactly what everyone was working on and, build that rapport. We did weekly team meetings. I elevated the team. So if you were in charge of leasing, like you reported on leasing, maintenance, same thing. So everybody had their roles. Once a month, we closed early on Fridays. It was the third Friday of the month. We would close an hour early. We did happy hour, no alcohol, but it was fun. So we got together on Zoom, and we each month a different team member would talk about their life so they could share whatever they wanted. My more techie ones made cool slide decks that include photos. My assistant PM who lived in Washington brought like literally photos and would like hold them up to the camera. And because we were all curious, like, where do you live? Like, what does it look like? Like in South Africa, like, do you have like wild animals around you? Like what,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
were
No,
all
yeah.
curious. Like everybody wanted to know more about each other.
Yeah.
And so we did that. We also did holiday parties. So I would send money to my VA team and they could get whatever snacks or treats they wanted. And we would get together and celebrate different holidays together. Yeah. And and then the other fun thing that we did was we had a water cooler channel. And that's where, throughout the day, if you wanted to, share something like I would have shared one of my daughter's senior photos. And I'm like, oh yeah, we did my daughter's senior photos. And yeah, just things like that. And it was just really fun. And my team, I mean, truly a team. And we felt like we all knew each other really well because we did. And
Yeah.
that's the type of environment that I wanted to create. So
Yeah. You're not gonna find a bigger buyer from than me on this, right? Like I feel the same way about my team. Like we're all so close. Like, we do stuff like that too, right? Like we on our all hands on Monday, we have like a little section that we talk about like our weekend and what we were grateful for. On our all hands on Thursdays, we talk about what we're looking forward to. We always start with gratefulness, so you get to know what like people
yeah,
care about. And what it's led to is they're all in the Philippines. They've started like getting together just randomly, right? Like they'll just be like, hey, Brian, who's my right hand and kind of like the orchestrator of all of it, he'll just be like, hey man, we all want to go to this one place over the weekend. I'm like, cool. If you guys want to do that, I'll pay for it. And then why don't you guys work remote for the week and work together and figure it out, right? And like they love doing that type of stuff because like it's like a real sense of belonging and being part of a team that you miss when you're remote. And as a result, I think that the work that they put in has a level of care that is
yep,
well beyond the average, just like check the box employee. And it's been
yep,
life changing.
yep, yep. And that was my motto, lead with care. That was our
That's it.
word. And
That's
it was the thing where, so if somebody was sick or they wanted to take off early because their daughter was in a play or whatever. I mean, everybody would help each other out and cover each other. And there was no animosity. And we were all humans. We
yeah,
just happened to live in different places.
yeah,
And
yeah. The real
it
team.
worked really well. I loved it. I had an awesome team. They were the
That's
best.
awesome. That's awesome. Anything else, Stacey? I love this. Like to me, this was like a great potpourri of like what's happening and different things. Anything else that you had in mind to talk about?
No, I mean, not at the moment. I mean,
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure there's something in my head, but no,
Sure.
this was fun. Yeah, I can talk about this stuff all day long.
Me too. What events are you going to throughout the rest of the year? Do you have anything on your calendar in case anybody wants to see the queen of the chessboard herself in person?
Yeah, so I'll be speaking at NARPM Florida State Conference. First time that I will be speaking at the Florida State
I'll see
Conference.
you there. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
cool.
awesome. Good. Yeah, I'll see you in person. So it'll be fun. I'll be talking about creating experiences for clients and residents.
I
And then
love
I'm
it.
speaking at the MX Summit in South
Okay.
Dakota, which I've never been to South Dakota. So also first time speaking there as well, talking about team building. And of course, it'll be a lot of AI in there. So that's for sure on the docket. And then I have quite a few free webinars that start again in September. And I'll
Mhm.
probably the end of the year. So
Cool. You
that's,
going to nationals or no? NARPA nationals?
I'm not sure yet. My daughter turns 18 that week,
Got it.
so kind of depends on that. I thought maybe she might want to go with me, but supposedly she doesn't want to miss school. So I
Hmm.
a little confused on that, but we'll so we'll see. Because it is in Orlando. I thought it'd be fun. So
I was like, yeah. I guess your daughter must not be a big Disney person because,
she is. That's the
uh,
weird. So I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, I don't know. I might want to hang out with my friends. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't. So I don't know. We'll see. I haven't bought a ticket yet. So yeah.
right on. Well, I'm pumped to see you in Hutchinson Island for the Florida State NARPM. That's a nice little revelation. I'm talking too, so I've got like the AI talk. So
Oh, well, awesome. That's good. Yeah, it'll be
yeah,
fun.
and I'm putting the last kind of like things together. I should be like I have this book I've been working on that I think I'm gonna launch at Florida. I don't think that's the plan. We're like launching the book at Florida State NARPM, so should be cool.
Doing it. Okay. I can't wait to hear more about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. All right, thanks, Stacey.
Yeah. Thank you.